So let's test get country by ID action. Just start the app, and here we will select /countries. And we get the list of countries just like we did before. But now we can use these details links to go to the detail page of any of these countries. So let's click one of them. And here is the country details. And my country name is India in this case. You can see that the ID is 14, that is being passed into the URL. And we have those two buttons. So obviously I need to make a few changes. I still have the slash in all these buttons, which I copied from the previous view, which only had it as a links. And I also want to move the buttons under the name. So let's just make these few changes. But before we do that, let's also verify what happens when we use an ID that doesn't exist. And nothing really happened. We still get country details with no name for the country, but we don't get the error message. And that is because we would actually have to click the link itself in order for us to see the messages. This is basically just a page refresh, and the view bag and the model state is not populated. So we'll test that as well. So let's go back to our view first. And first I'm going to remove this from the button, so it says update country and delete country. But I'm also going to style it a little. So after the paragraph, I'm going to create a div, and I'm going to make a few classes for it. The first one is going to be form group, and the next one text center. So here we will paste the buttons, and they should be centered on the page. So I'm just gonna copy them, just the buttons, cut them, and paste them in our newly created div. So we'll have the name, and then under it we'll have the buttons. So let's see how that looks. So again, let's go to countries. Here's the list of countries, and let's click one of them for the details. And I wanted the buttons in the middle of the page, and they are. And here's the rest of the page. We will place a little more styles to it a little later. For now, this is good enough. So if I go back to the countries, and I click, let's say, Canada, I have the Canada details here. And USA, I have the country USA and the buttons here. Of course, the buttons do nothing. It will get me a note not found because we don't have the actions coded yet. But as you could see, we can go straight from our index and click any of these links and go to the details page because we were prepared for it. I cannot stress this enough. Just make sure that you have an understanding of the future structure of your pages and pick a naming convention that you want to follow. This way, you can code even when some parts are still missing from your app. And now, let's simulate an error by assigning a country that doesn't exist. So I'll close this and go back to the controller this time. And here I will assign a null value to my country, just temporarily for this test. So that should trigger the if statement, and we should display the messages on the page. Let's see if that happens. Well, we did get an error message, but not the one we probably expected. What it says is that the object reference is not set to an instance of an object, because in our view, we're trying to use the name property of the model, and model is null. Which is okay, but we have to take care of that in our controller. So let's go back to that. So how do we do that? What do we do if the country is null? Well, we still want to return basically nothing, but we don't want to return null itself. What we want to do is return an empty object. So if the country is null, we will create a new country DTO object. So in our view, we will have an empty object. So when it comes over here, the name will actually be valid. It will be blank because the object is not gonna be null anymore. So when we run it now, we should get our messages. So let's go to countries, click any of the countries, and here are the messages. Error getting a country, and this is our viewback. There was a problem with the country of ID 2 from the database. And you can see the country name is nothing, it's empty. Obviously, I could have showed you all of this coded the right way the first time, but I wanted you to see that sometimes things simply don't work out the way you expect them to. And don't panic when that happens. Just go back, read the error message, see what is happening, and fix that. So this is our get country by ID. I'll go to my countries controller. I'll comment out the country equals null. And next, we can go and do the get country of an author API call.